That idea of having conversation, not yelling and screaming at each other, but really having the opportunity, as Turning Points, Charlie lived and died on the basis of, you know, having conversations as opposed to, although his thing was, prove it to me, um, as opposed to yelling sessions, was really important. But I think that there's a lot that Charlie Kirk got wrong. And one of the things that I specifically care about so much, because I've devoted the last 43 years of my life to it, is when people know a little bit about one thing and a little bit about something else, and then they mix the two together. And because he has such a big audience, to me, it's extremely important that when you put information out there, it be accurate, right? So now, in his mind, I'm sure it was accurate. I have a problem with how little people know about the civil rights laws and about the laws, particularly as it relates to the workplace and discrimination. Yeah. And that's absolutely contrary to what we think the whole point of information is, right? I mean, the whole point of information is for you to learn what this is and then do what you usually do with information, which is to govern yourself accordingly. Okay. If you go through stop signs all the time because you don't know any better, and then you learn that like hexagon or whatever it is that has the stop and the red side, that means you're supposed to stop. Okay. Oh, okay. Now I'll stop. Right? That's just like that's how information works. And when it doesn't work that way, or you dismiss that information because you don't feel like it benefits you in some way or benefits your argument, your position, to me, that's disingenuous. Okay. And I think if and I have no idea why Charlie Kirk put it the way he did, but if his reason was that he simply did not know, well, we can fix that, right? Because that's what education is about. But if you know and then decide you don't want to say the right thing, you still want to put that wrong misinformation out there because it in your eyes does not help your argument, then to me that's just wrong. And I don't like that because to me that then becomes manipulative. Okay. People are looking to you for information, expecting that your information is going to be solid information that they can then take and make as a basis for decisions they want to make. And as it turns out, you were manipulating that information for your own ends. Okay. To me, that's just wrong. So when he's, and let me back up a minute too, because part of what he said was, he didn't like DEI. Well, this is big. It was, because it was born out of affirmative action. First of all, it was not. Secondly, he has already made clear his own statement was that Title VII of the 1960, that the whole Civil Rights Act, okay, of 1964, which took us to from Jim Crow, which we had been in for 99 years, to a non-discrimination posture as a country. Okay. He said that that was a mistake. I guess if you take that for its normal meaning of the words, it's that we still should be operating under Jim Crow. You should never have passed the law.
Erika Dawson Head received her BA in 2012, a double major in political science and sociology from Central Connecticut State University. In 2015, she received her master's degree in counseling with a specialization in student development and higher education. In her most recent position, Dawson Head was instrumental in establishing an Office of Diversity and Inclusion at the University of St. Joseph, while serving as Diversity and Employee Engagement Coordinator for the university's Department of Human Resources. She has been an administrator, participant, and presenter at the True Colors Conference for LGBT Youth for the past 7 years, and has been an active participant with the Tri-State Diversity Committee for the past 3 years. She served 2 years as Commissioner for the City of New Britain, Connecticut, for the Commission on Community and Neighborhood Development. She has been an active participant and/or leader in numerous community organizations and has a passion for social justice. Dawson Head is driven by her strong belief in diversity, equity, and inclusion, while providing opportunities for all people. So let's get ahead and welcome Erika.
Hi, welcome to another episode of Quilted Hearts Chats, and we are so proud to have our guest here today. That is, of course, someone special. Everyone has a special person in their life, and this person is my aunt's special person. She is comes to us from education background, and she's going to tell us all about what she's doing in this world right now. But first, we're going to hear about the whole how we met you story from my aunt. And
I love that. I love that. I love that. I love that. So Erika is really special to me. Erika and I met when Erika asked me to come to this tiny little university or college that she was in to do some work, some DEI work. She said, we don't really have any money, but and I said, that's not a problem. If you can pay for me to come, I'll be there. And I came and I loved it. It was so small, Upper Northeast, so small that I was really able to talk to pretty much everybody in this day-long session that we had together. And and it was so well received. They were really awesome. And as soon as I met Erika, as soon as she met me at the whatever was the airport, it was like, oh my gosh, I know we're going to be friends for life. She was so awesome, so genuine, so caring, so compassionate, so absolutely on fire for making everybody feel included and being willing to do the work. Not everybody wants to do that. Being willing to do the work that makes this happen, because where she was had nothing. It was a miracle I was there, but you see how much of a budget they had to work with, right? I had to do it gratis, but that was okay, because for me, it's the work that matters, and being able to have people sit down and listen so that they can become more knowledgeable and understand what DEI is and why it's important. That was the important thing for me. And as it turned out, probably maybe 6-8 weeks later, after I left, I get this email from Erika that says, you will not believe what happened since you were here. Now, I had already gotten a few emails from her after I left saying, oh my God, this thing was the talk of the campus. People were so upset that if they could not have been there, they were so upset. They really felt this sense of, oh my God, what did I miss? Kind of stuff. She said people were talking about the kind of things that we had discussed. The conversations were ongoing, which is what I love, because then I'm not there. Y'all are doing the work. But about 6 or 8 weeks later, she emails me and she says, you will not believe what happened since you've been here. And she said, we now have a center. We now have this programming, all this stuff that you would have wanted to come out of something like that, because people understood, not because they were trying to fill in a box, but because they understood what was going on. And it was a reaffirmation for me, which you really need in doing this work, because people don't always get it, that it really is important, that so much of what people either fail to do or do wrong is not because they are mean, they're evil, they're racist, they're sexist. It's because they simply don't know. Now, whether we think that makes sense or not doesn't matter. If you don't know, you don't know, especially if you leave yourself open for knowing. And they were clearly open for knowing. And I love it when I can get a whole group together like that, because then everybody is on the same page from day one. They understand why you're making moves that you're making and why it would make everything better, and how, especially with something like this, it is not that you're excluding people. It's not that you're being negative. It is just that you have now become aware of something that you may not have become aware of before. And now you realize that there are things based on who you are and what you're doing that can be done to move in a direction that you sort of thought you were going in before. Again, doesn't make sense to second guess why somebody didn't think they were going in that direction. We don't all come here with the same stuff in our head. We have experiences that give us that. But being able to be open to it and seeing what could happen just in that short period of time was amazing. And not only that, but they were in college at the time I went there. They subsequently ended up being in a university, which meant it was going to be even broader and have more of an impact. And anytime you can appreciate and value who it is that is there that you are working with, and do things that make them feel included, not just to make them feel included, but because you understand that what they bring to that table is really an awesome piece that you want, I've done my job. So, and we have, what, do we still love each other? Yes, we do. We have been hanging in there together ever since. When I did my practical diversity website, this woman is awesome when it comes to all that imaginative stuff I do not have at all. And she was like, oh, I can do that. I can do this, 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 and this. And she did it. So we have, from the time we met, we knew we would be friends forever, and here you are. And have specifically, this is the context in which we met. Part of what it is, it's a big part of what you do, Erika, that I want people to be aware of the impact of, is that you work with programs that help bring in diverse populations that simply have not been there before for whatever reason. But you help make that happen. And that's why we wanted to talk to you, because we wanted you to share with our listeners and viewers why that is something that you would devote your time and attention to, and the impact that it has, not only on that kid, but on an institution, having them do what they do there and then go back out into the world. And I know how passionate you are about that.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
It's been a pleasure, and thank you for inviting me for this great opportunity. I can't talk enough about DBA and all of the amazing things that happened after the magic happened, right? Think about this. I'm calling cold. DBA has no idea who I am in the world. I am one person in a small town calling saying, hey, I saw your TEDx and it was pretty awesome. I really could use somebody like you coming to our school and making a difference. And in the odds that somebody would say, sure, I'll do it for no compensation, just travel. Okay. And to be able, in the institution that I was in, it was very difficult for financial reasons and other reasons. Hey, it's difficult for everybody, right? And they were able to pull together enough funding for us to be able to make it happen. And it was almost like a miracle in a sense, right? Because it was something that I needed personally and the institution needed at that same time, to be able to prepare itself to move into these new stages that we were moving into at that point in time, in development for the organization. And it also provided an opportunity for people to connect that had not connected in years. There were people that had sat next to each other for 4 years, 5 years, 7 years, more, and that really didn't even know who they were. They didn't know who that person was. And the changes that happened after DBA came, it was sort of like a tsunami, because it kind of washed over everybody. Nobody expected it. And I expected it, but I was the only one. So it was just a wave. And And I would definitely say that afterwards, I kept getting emails and phone calls and cornered and like at the coffee bar. Like I go to get my tea because I'm a tea drinker. And then I'd be like covered with people saying, well, what are you thinking about? What's the plan? Is there a diversity committee? Is there this? Is there that? And it was an automatic, it gave us the energy we needed, that zap of energy to move forward, right? To motivate the group, right? And so I can't thank you enough for saying yes to that weird moment when someone sees you on YouTube.
That is kind of
It
strange. Huh?
is totally. I love it too.
You.
I love you too. I can't get enough. It's been a great opportunity, and I thank you for saying yes and having the audacity, right? The audacity to say, forget it. I'm just gonna go there. I'm not knowing, and it's been transformative.
What state is this?
It was in Connecticut. And so since then, it has been a wonderful opportunity, because since then, I have moved on personally to a larger institution. I'm in an R1 institution. And one of the things that I do,
huge difference. Hold on, huge difference. R1 institutions, for those who do not know, are the top of the line institutions. R stands for research. Research 1 institutions that have a much broader reach, and what you do has a much bigger impact.
I think it was great to have my training wheels on in the smaller institution before I moved to an institution, a big university that has 30,000 plus students, right? And more, right? And our reach is global. My students have my demographics we are educating the world, and I think that is something that's been lost in the current environment. And guess what? One time I was laughing. I was speaking with a coworker that was a professor in pharmaceuticals, and this was at my previous institution. And I said, hey, what are you talking about? He was from Egypt. And he said, Erika, America's greatest export is education. I said, what? I don't understand. And he said, America's greatest export is education. And when I went to the R1 institutions, I understood what he meant. I was in a small space, which I won't discount because it has value, right?
Oh, absolutely.
The absolute value. But moving into a larger institution, I was really able to, when you're walking through your centers and your buildings, you hear multiple languages being spoken. You smell food from all over because the demographics of the community are so different. I always thought that was one of the most beautiful things about being in that institution, is that I won't just have an impact on the United States and education. We have an impact on the world. And we have an impact on how we educate the world. We provide these faculty members that are top notch. I can't even explain the things that they've done. I mean, the things that our faculty have done, and our staff and some of the students themselves, I mean, it's just extraordinary. And I see a true value. And I mean, we could talk about this, and this kind of leads into where do we start with higher education? What does that look like, right? And when we started higher education, and why is there even a need for these types of programs and people and insight? Why are we even talking about this? And I think it starts with a historical view, which is history is something that has also been his story. We've always said it's called his story. It was, and it depends on which part you're getting, right?
Accurately named.
His story. So when we get a real view of what happened throughout our history, we understand that these spaces, a lot of these R1s, Ivy League schools, were created to educate rich white men. So when you are retrofitting anything, right? Let me explain. If I was this, okay, I'm a bigger girl. I don't wear a size 6. To get me into a size 6, you will need to retrofit that outfit. And the same way, I'm saying that outfit needs to be changed, right? You're going to have to
Right.
make it a lot bigger than a size 6 because I'm not going to fit that, right? So the same way education has had to change. It's just that simple. We have had a model that was created to educate rich white men. There are some white men that are not rich. Can you imagine? And there are some people that are not men. Can you imagine? And there are some people that are neither. So
It's a little bit more
we
than
need
half.
to, there's a lot, right? And I'm just talking about, I mean, that's just talking about gender and race. We're not even putting in the other variables as people with disabilities and all these other pieces that make us who we are, the unique
We
people
are.
that we are. And so I think that
Right.
it's really important to recognize that in order to have these institutions meet the needs of our changing society, no longer is it just for rich white men. Education and higher ed has been opened up for all of us to attend. We hope that all of us can attend, right? We want to make it accessible for people. And that's where the space comes in, accessibility, right? Is it a bad thing to take the size 6 and give me more material because my body would need more material in the outfit? I don't think so, because you don't want to see me in that size 6 looking like that. It's not going to look good. It's not going to be a good look. I'd be embarrassed. You would be embarrassed for looking at it. We would both be really sad. Okay. So when we're thinking about it, it makes sense. Give her the material, please. Right. And so why
Right.
not make sure that we make these things accessible to people? And so I want you to understand too that when we talk about this accessibility does not mean that you don't have to meet certain standards, right? It means that it is just you're making it so that everybody has an opportunity for it, right? Like that size 6, you said, oh, okay, Erika. Now I'm not going to make it any fancier for you, but I'm going to give you more material so that you can fit it, just so you can fit it, right? And so I'm
And the
just
material is right there. It's not
right.
like you got to do a
It
whole bunch
is
to get it. It's laying right there. It's there for you.
absolutely right. And so I think that we really have to think about it with and I want you to think about it that in some majors, right, we have a very low population of women in these majors or in these disciplines, as you would call them in an institution. But there are some disciplines where we have a very low level of white men in these disciplines. For example, nursing. Nursing is something that has traditionally they are biting at the bits to get men included in nursing and to get them excited about being a nurse, right? So I want you to think about it that when we're talking about these integrative aspects, we're not just talking about Black women or Black men or Latino women or Latino men. I'm just saying those for examples. I'm saying that we're talking about the diaspora of humans that live on this earth. We all have different
Wait.
that we're trying to make
Repeat that. That
the,
live on this earth.
the
Okay. And
diaspora.
in this country. That's what we're
Absolutely.
talking about. It's
Absolutely.
not something alien. This is what is here and we're dealing with.
Absolutely. Absolutely. The absolute diaspora. So we really want to make sure that it's reflected in that manner because these things that I see, I'm always shocked when I see it. I mean, sometimes I'm watching. Okay, I am a character. I do like YouTube. Okay, we know that. I already said it. I admitted it, right? But when I'm going on YouTube and then all of a sudden I'm hearing this and I'm like, oh my gosh, is this really DEI? Like I've never even heard of some of these things that are being said. And it's hilarious to me because any other profession, if someone comes up there and says these things that are untruths, they're met with a response. That is not how doctors act. That is not how I don't know, lawyers are. I don't know, right? You're met with people that will say, no, these are the tenets and this is what it includes. But for DEI, you get to make it up as you go, depending on what you see. And so I just wanted to find
today or
the
this
version
hour.
that I know,
Yeah.
the minute, right? The minute. So I'm just explaining where I see it and the way that I've somewhat engaged, but I don't want to take up all the time. Go ahead.
Well,
No, I mean, you get your
do
time
that.
to talk about
Yeah,
it, but you certainly hit the nail on the head because you mentioned something that's close to me, which is being disabled and being institutions and stuff that don't deal with that very well, to say the least, the most kind, the most generous way of saying it. And I had to deal with something that I thought I could do because I know what I am, and I read what is required, and it didn't seem like I couldn't do it. I would need some certain things to be met, but I think we can talk about those because everybody doesn't have the same needs. But I was not deterred. I was encouraged, and then when it came time to actually execute me being in that space, it was like, oh, wait a second, we didn't think it was going to be this much work or that you were going to need this kind of help. We're not equipped to do that. And that part I get because we have to get to places where we want to be, somehow we have to figure that out. And sometimes this is how you figure things out, where you can't do it this way, so it has to be redesigned for you to think about it a certain way. But the part I guess people don't really want to tell you that. And they have the part, and they're playing it just like, well, I don't have to pass off the bad news, let somebody else do that kind of thing. That's the most frustrating part for anybody. It's just that you don't even get the chance to make your case because people are trying to so scared of saying something wrong that they won't tell you what's true anymore. And
True.
it's frustrating as I don't know what, but I understand
Renee,
that.
I've had so many situations where that has come up in a session, and people do exactly what you're talking about. It's like, and this was, and I think it's important to deal with what is self-imposed, right? What we decide that we want to do versus what's put on us. And the whole idea of you can't say certain things to people, because they would get upset, this whole woke nonsense. To me, that was what people chose to do, right? And I'll put some in there. There was also some, kind of canceling and stuff going on about it. But what it ended up doing was taking away people's common sense. So to be able to say to all your employees or applicants for a position, this is what the job requires. Okay, is this something that you feel like you can do? And if you, for instance, said, well, I could do that, but this is what I'd need to do that, it would make sense. I mean, we've now had the conversation. I can see whether I can think about whether or not we have the ability to make the changes that you need, which is real different than not saying anything at all. You get down to the last part where it looks like you're going to get it, but they see what the reality is, and then they pull the rug out from under you. It was perfectly okay to ask somebody, can you do this? And if you can't, is there something we can do to help facilitate that?
Right.
Okay. Because then you know what, and because you're the biggest resource, right? Of knowing what it is that you need to be able to have you do that job well. And why not ask you? And so often they don't. They either deal with what's in their own head. And if you are not used to having to deal with making any sort of adjustments in a workplace, everybody just comes in and do whatever they're supposed to do, then this would seem like a burden to you. But it's usually only a burden if you think of it as a burden. Because the truth is, if that was somebody you loved, somebody you cared about, you wouldn't think of it as a burden at all. It's just, this is what we have to do for so-and-so when he comes to dinner. We have to make sure that, his chair is this one as opposed to that one because his wheelchair can't get under it or whatever it is. But somehow we do it differently when it's people in a workplace. And you know me, it's all about love. If you cared about people, if you wanted what was best for them, then you wouldn't think of it as a negative in the first place. You would figure your first thought would be, how can we work this out? Not, we can't do this.
I would like to add on to what was said and say it's about love, but it's also about being creative. And I think that having creativity is something that is lacking in a lot of spaces. So, for example, I worked for an institution that was a mid-level institution, and it was in Connecticut. And I was a TA for the math department, and I worked for a class for students with special needs. The class was, I worked there for about 4 or 5 years, part-time. And I always laugh because I'm like, who doesn't have special needs, right? Like, anyone has special needs. Yeah. But that was the only way that they could label the class. It was this math class, right? It was 2 of them. And one of the things is that when people walked into our class, we had to teach students that weren't able to move their hands, weren't able to move their body in any way, how to do math. And one of the things that we do to learn and comprehend is we write and we move. We write and we are able to connect our writing to our brain. And you have to think about it. For these people, they have to memorize everything. They can't hold the book. You have to hold the book for them, right? And help them through it. I had a teacher that I worked for that was brilliant and ingenious, and we were ingenious with very low budget, say budget of nothing, right? We had a very low budget. And so the creativity is, for example, that one student, I'm just thinking about one student, when we did exams and stuff, we did it on a chalkboard, and we had a medium-sized chalkboard we would hold up so that they didn't have to hurt their neck because they were in a chair already. And we would just do it problem by problem and have the patience and the care for the student, right? Now, I get it that some of these spaces are under-resourced, and they don't have a lot of they don't have a lot of support for the students. I get it that there are things that exist, but there are also things that exist that we can even the playing ground a little bit, right? And I think it's that lack of creativity that kind of tells you about an organization. To be quite honest, and I get it. I am a person with a disability, right? Like, disabilities happen. I feel like after a certain age, they should just give you a plaque. You are now a person with a disability, because after a certain age,
largest minority.
We are just parts of so many different communities, right? That you never thought you might even be, right? And so I think that that lack of creativity really speaks to an organization and what they stand for and who they are. I gotta say, all pushes aside, I work for an R1, and I gotta say, in the past, they have been very gracious when it comes to people with disabilities to be able to give the supports that they need to be employed there. And they've had dedicated staff. Now, in the past, things are changing, but in the past, they have had dedicated staff that attended to the employees' needs, had an accessibility team. So they would come in and see what types of pieces they have and things that you would need. And I've had people that I've worked with that have been blind. I have had people that I have worked with that have had mobility issues. I have had people that I've worked with that have had disabilities from the gamut. And the amount of energy, the amount of knowledge, the amount of motivation that has come from the people that I know, any one of them would be an excellent, I would nominate for president. So I'm just saying that they were to the level of amazing employees. So To be
Yeah.
quite honest, if an institution wants to grow and wants to be successful into the future, how are you setting yourself up for success in the future if you're eliminating yourself from prospective employees that can bring this vast amount of knowledge to their space?
Yeah.
The thing is that in that space, as a person with disabilities, you represent a group of people that will be served by that institution, possibly, right? So how do they get that intel and that knowledge if you don't live that life? And so that goes back to what we're talking about. What is it like, right, to speak for other people and not allow them in your spaces? Oh, yeah. Well, our antidote to that was creating these inclusive spaces and these programs to help create inclusion in these spaces. Whereas I have been, some of the things that I have been responsible for is helping to increase the number of students that are Black and brown and from other minoritized backgrounds in certain disciplines. Now, from example, if I was in a nursing background, that would be increasing the number of men, right? And I like to lay on that because I don't think people think about it enough, right? Is that everybody is excluded somewhere, right? And we're trying to make inclusion for people, right? And to create this worldwide community. And some of the programs that I have been on are very, 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 have been very good and beneficial to the community because they have been based on a belief that everyone deserves to be within the space, right? And we're not excluding people because of their race, gender, our religion, our national origin, you know. And I think that somewhat has been lost in the conversation.
I think intentionally so, restricting it to just being based on you're excluding white males when that was never what anybody was trying to do, and usually not something that was being done. But Eric, I want you to go back to what you said was about it used to be that way and things seem to be changing. What happened?
Well, currently at my institution, believe it or not, things have shifted. They used to have an entire team that dealt with these matters. You would go in, they would have someone, I mean, literally, they have a few different people that would work in that space. They've since then closed that space and moved into a human resources position.
Was there a precipitous event that made them do that?
I don't know, to be quite honest. It was that one is above my pay grade, but that is the move currently, right?
Well, have you felt a difference with the new administration from January 2025 for any of these issues?
I think that if anyone is on a higher education campus and has not felt any changes, they must be in Mars. They cannot be in the United States. Yeah. Since all of these things have been happening in our government, it is a trickle down. It definitely reaches us no matter how hard you fight or how hard you try to remain an independent educational environment. We are deeply connected to our government in many different ways. And I'm in a public institution, so I am deeply connected, right? So I can't say that nothing has trickled down. There have been things that have trickled down, but we are in a constant, we do believe in the principles of inclusion. We do believe in the principles of making sure that our students feel that they are included and are included. There's a difference with feeling and are, right?
Absolutely.
I think there's a big, big difference because a lot of times people will say, you're really included, but you're really not a part of the fabric of the institution and helping to make decisions and moving them forward in these spaces. Have things changed? Absolutely. Even up in the Northeast. Things have absolutely changed for and I'm going to speak on behalf of every institution. I'm going to say every institution, I will put money on it, that has felt this. Because think about it, our grants, Think about all of our grants and research and all these things that were happening. There are grants to specifically study. For example, I'm going to use women. Women have been excluded in education for years. They were secretaries. They were thought that they were not supposed to have these higher paid jobs. Salaries were not the same. If you have any question about that, look up Lily Ledbetter, and you could see some of those different things, right, that are evidenced throughout our society. These things existed. And then there were programs that were created to increase the number of women in disciplines, right? Depending on what discipline it is, to increase the number of women and to provide access to women who happen to be the mothers of the earth. And I'm just saying that because pretty much women are the mothers of the earth, right? And we are the ones that have children. Let me just say that. Yes, it takes two, but guess what? We are the ones that do, okay? And so when we think about this, right? You need to have a space that's inclusive of parents, people that, and it might be male, but there are male parents now that use the same space, right? But particularly depending on how it was created, it automatically gets stamped. Oh, a woman. If I say childcare, and you click it in your mind, it automatically goes to woman childcare. They need childcare.
Nursing, the one you've been using as an example, nursing. Because
Exactly.
only women can be that kind of compassionate.
That's right. Nursing, right? They can only be so compassionate, right? And so I think that there needs to be this real thought of who is using these facilities. There are men that also are parents and people that are gender non-binary and other genders, because I do, and let me just say, for this discussion and further, I do believe that there are other genders and people should be able to say who they are in the space, and I should be able to believe them.
Absolutely.
Okay. And we are going to say that for this discussion and moving forward. Okay. I'm going to go out on that limb.
Notwithstanding, executive orders notwithstanding, yeah. We're dealing with the reality.
Exactly. The reality of the situation.
Not what you want, what it is. Right.
It is exactly. It is what it is, right? And so I think that it's really important that if we don't preserve these institutions and we get them labeled as, oh, those are just for women, or this is just for that, we will make sure to get rid of so many supports that have helped so many people over the years to be able to achieve their goals.
Yeah.
So that's just one example.
One of my favorite examples of that was with the Americans with Disabilities Act, where part of it required that streets do the cut-ins for wheelchairs. And when they did research several years later, they found out that the biggest recipients of that was not people in wheelchairs. It was people who had some sort of bag to carry or was on roller wheels. That's who was getting a huge benefit. So it benefits everybody. It's not like it's just for
all the
thing.
time.
Yeah, it makes it a bigger world for everyone. It's not like a limited pie. And if you get this, then somebody else gets less. You have to stop thinking about it that way.
Absolutely. That is a perfect example. I love it.
There's people who are disabled in mind, then everyone gets to share, because I don't have to use the grab bars in the bathroom unless I want to use the grab bars in the bathroom. I also may need the grab bars in the bathroom. So guess what? We've taken out all the options. Your needs, your wants, and your desires are all served. We just put in some grab bars in the bathroom.
You use it or not.
To make it inclusive. I mean, it just makes sense. I don't understand it.
Yeah. Well, that's to me,
that's people who are disabled get to pay the extra money to get all those things involved. I get to pay the money to put the bars up. I get to pay the money. So all of those things that also you want to make it so that only people who are needing that feature would have it. You also charge them more when they're usually the least amount of people that can or can afford that kind of extra fees. So.
And I think that that's the fear I do have with the way that things are shifting. Remember, I am a parent, just so that you know, also, I am a parent of a child that is autistic. So when I think about it, and I think about the things that my son had, his plan coming through high school, his plan going into college, I think about the kids of the future. There's already inequities in states. By taking a move and taking the support that people need out of an outside organization and moving it into the states, I can imagine that it will create a lot more inequity, because people are not going to receive similar services. They're not going to receive. Sometimes you'll get more, maybe, but sometimes you'll probably get less, probably a lot more. And I would love to see it streamlined, whereas we know that students will get the support that they need and the parents will get the support they need to make sure that these students are able to be a part of our community. I mean, one thing that I always laugh about and I think about that was brought up to me was that one of my friends, I don't remember who said this, so please, I'm quoting you and I'm probably doing it poorly, but we're going to go for it. They actually said that most of the people that did amazing things were autistic or on the spectrum or had some type of other thing that we call a disability in the United States, right?
I've heard that.
And you've heard that too, right?
Yeah.
And so when I think about it and I think about all that brilliance and I think about how do we remain the number one, right? Right now we're rolling with the number one, but hey, that spot is being taken. People are coming at us, right? Other countries, I'm hearing of offers from other countries because of the restricted policies on our institutions that are being implemented that you know, other spaces are offering, like other countries are offering, hey, we'll take your students.
Yeah. Between
And
taking away the grant money for the research and having the immigration issues with not wanting people from other countries here. Yeah. I mean, the other countries are standing around saying, we're willing to take you. Okay. And we're willing to
Oxford number 2.
Yeah. We're willing to fund what it is we're working on.
And the doctors too, the doctors that are working private, even that used to use government money, they're now also leaving, professors.
And outside of that, I have also heard of people leaving the United States and moving to other countries like Canada, where they can have gender affirming care, right? And if they are practitioners, leaving where they can be free to practice.
Yeah.
So there is almost like a brain drain, right? That's leaving our communities.
One of the things about
Texas,
you said what'd you say, Renee?
I was just going to say that we started noticing that in Texas when the abortion stuff started happening from the Supreme Court's decision.
Yeah.
So we started losing OBGYNs.
If they have to worry about whether they're going to be arrested and charged with a fine, especially when people under their care end up dying because the doctors can't figure out whether what they need to live is something that breaks the law or not, and why would you go through all of that to prepare yourself to be a doctor and then have to worry about whether you were going to be put in prison for making medical decisions? That makes no sense whatsoever.
And we're not even going to talk about student loans. So the hits keep hitting. The hits keep hitting. I think this is, I gotta honestly say that I knew the world that I lived in because I was very blessed. I call myself blessed, right? I really didn't learn about my history until I went to, I think I read the autobiography of Malcolm X, the one that the Nation of Islam helped write. I didn't realize that, right? And then I read that book and it was transformative for me. I was like, people were protesting. This is real. And that was my senior year in high school. And I didn't learn really until probably about 2 or 3 years later about my own history. I had no idea of our struggles. I had no idea of how we ended up in these spaces. I had no idea of the different movements, Jim Crow, all these different things that have shaped American history and shaped my life as an American. And I'm not saying, I'm being very cautious about saying American, because it's not as a Black American, it is as an American, because these are people that shaped our collective American history, regardless of your race, gender, our background, our socioeconomic status.
Right.
And I think it was very important for me as a person to be able to find those pieces, because by being able to see what happened in the past, I didn't really understand at that point. I didn't have a real understanding of the Holocaust. I had no understanding of all of these major atrocities and things that had happened in our world. It was a very blank view of history, right? I really didn't have much at all. And that's traveling through. I mean, you would think that the institutions I went to were pretty good. I went to a religious institution. I also went to public high schools. I mean, you would think I would have something, and I really didn't have much to work with. So I had to go on self exploration to understand and take classes and take lots of different classes just to understand, who am I? Who are the people that came before me? And what did they do to make this world better, right? And I think that self exploration helped me to be able to see the things that are happening now a lot clearer, with a lot more understanding. I've had times and opportunities where I had the chance to say I'm too busy to do something, or I just don't have the time, or whatever it may be, but I have had to make the time, and I have chose to make the time.
And it benefited not only you, but
Absolutely.
look at your absolute passion for what it is that you do. And I'm sure that is enhanced because you understand the bigger picture and
Absolutely.
how it fits in.
I have said yes many a times when I've had to stretch myself a little bit thinner, just to make sure things happen.
Well, have not we
And
all?
it always
Whoa.
somebody getting on a plane and coming to a place that they have no idea, because one person said it. I get it, right? And every time I do it, I think of the gift that you gave me of that presence, and the gift you gave our institution of your presence in that space.
Which I consider it my privilege to have done. My absolute privilege to have done. We know we cannot keep you. We know you got a hard stop here. Thank you so much for spending this
Thank
time.
you.
Thank
Oh
you.
my
Thank you
gosh,
so much.
It's a
Erika,
real
It is
pleasure,
fun.
Erika.
It is wonderful. Any other time, let me know. I love talking.
I knew that's also why
Love
we
to
were
have
talking
you.
together.
They're like, yeah, you take it
All
over.
right. We'll be in
I'll
Yeah,
leave
but I
it
have to
on.
ask just 3 more questions real quick.
Sure.
What's your favorite color?
Purple.
Me too.
You
Kindred
knew it.
spirit.
You knew it.
I know. Now let's see if we can keep the trend going. What's your
I know
favorite
it.
movie?
All right. I like the autobiography of Malcolm X, but I also like the color purple. I love the color purple. I really do. I love all the music. Like, it's the color purple.
You're
Whoopi
talking about the
Goldberg.
original color purple,
Yes,
right?
the original.
The
The
original one?
original.
Okay.
The original with
OG?
Mista.
Yeah.
I think I liked it so much because she has these children. It gives her, she talks about birth, she talks about life. She has to transcend so much. Then, I mean, she was the first person that I ever seen that had an openly lesbian relationship on air, right? That was the first one. It was before Ellen, if I think about it. And so, but nobody ever thinks about that Suge Avery moment. So, like, these are things that we're teaching that I was like, oh my God. And then, like, I love the care. It was like it was about women loving women and just being like, I got you, you know? Regardless of the pain, the hurt, they were able to overcome it. And even to fall in love somewhat with your husband's mistress, which is odd, but it was refreshing in that movie. I don't know, but I also like Medea sometimes. But you know, I have to say, if I said the classics, it would definitely be Color Purple. I think it was just beautiful. The Malcolm X too. I loved it because there was no better performance ever in my life I've ever seen than Denzel Washington as Malcolm X. That I've never seen a performance that have matched it, has reached that level, has even come to the top. It was transformative for me.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
And my final question would be, what is your go-to place if you could go anywhere in the world at all?
Oh my gosh, this is a tricky one. I have to think about this. If I can go anywhere in the world, if I had a ticket and I could just go anywhere, I think I would go. You know, I have a lot of students that are from South Africa, Ghana, the Sudan. They're from all over the continent of Africa. So I would have to go there. But I also have a lot of Indian students too. So I'd probably have to go to Africa and then go kick over to India so I can see what's happening over there. I mean, I heard the food is good too. So
absolutely,
that's what I heard.
You go to little India in Africa if you want to.
I know.
Those places
Right?
there are just spaces. Like that.
There are spaces,
Tanzania being
right?
one of them. Right.
Oh my gosh.
Well,
Tanzania sounds
Thanks
wonderful.
so much for everything. It's been a real pleasure and joy talking to you. Thanks for the insight that you gave us earlier before starting the show. And we'll be implementing some of those things coming up.
Thank you so much.